has Sobrevivdo Wyrm. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name again because I'm probably going to screw it up. Don't worry, I'm not going to be here permanently, I'm just moving so that you can see the title of the game. Do you remember The Red Death? Another visual novel that we played a little while ago about death and demons. Well, this is by the same person. You might recognise this similar sort of art style, and it's apparently of a Lovecraftian nature, and I am very much into Lovecraftian everything. So, let me move my camera back, and then we'll get into the game. The mine that the Apache people call the Cave of the Wyrm is hidden between the gorges of the Dragon Mountains in Arizona. According to legend, it was discovered by an old Spanish religious order, its name unknown, that never got to exploit it since it was expelled from the church and lost its resources. Until recently, nobody knew of the entrance's location, but it was told that it contained an infinity of natural tunnels rich in ore. Cochise's rebels positioned in the mountains knew it well, but it's said that they didn't get too close because of an old belief or superstition. After the recent defeat of the Apache leader, one of his fighters, half Mexican, sold the entrance's location to the Charhills mining company in Tombstone, so he could leave to Sonora with the money. The company claimed the land and sent workers to extract the abundance of copper and silver that was detected in its first inspection. The operation was established and everything worked as expected at first, but after barely a few months the ore stopped arriving to Tombstone. The following visit and inspection revealed that the miners had all disappeared. They couldn't even find the foreman. A man was discovered in the most external tunnel. He attacked the explorers with his pickaxe without saying a word, and then they shot him down. But they weren't professional gunmen, and they preferred not to go inside, but to leave as soon as possible. The Charhills Mining Company suspects that some band of outlaws has taken a hold of the mine and is sheltered in the deepest end, hiding and hoarding the minerals, forcing the miners to work for them. Wanted outlaws or not, the company has decided to pay for the clarification of what has occurred and the recovery of the mine. Sands. And that is why you are here, Mr. O'Brien. We have opted to hire our bounty hunters directly instead of announcing the payment to avoid attracting gold prospectors. You are Howard O'Brien, bounty killer by trade and possessor of one heck of a moustache. You are in Charhills building in Tombstone at the office of its lawyer, Henry Sands. Our bounty hunters, you said? When Sands notices you're about to put a tablet of chewing tobacco in your mouth, he shakes his head, discreetly but with forcefulness, and goes on. That is right. We have sent after another person, of whom we have good references to. I understand that it is common practice for people in your trade of work to work together sometimes. That way it will be easier for you. When several people go after the same bounty, it's better to have them cooperate than shoot each other. But since they have called you privately, you'd have preferred to get all of the money for yourself. It seems like Sand deduces what you are thinking from your facial expression. Do not worry, the payment is more than enough for... I think your partner is here already. You turn and notice the shape behind the door's translucent glass. When it opens, you are surprised to see a known face, which stands out for having a scarred hole instead of a right eye. I see the primary qualification for being a bounty hunter is an enormous moustache. Well, that's me out of the business then, isn't it? Folkson seems even more surprised than you. Hi, One Eye. You say it as a test. His expression immediately turns into one of deep anger, with which you confirm what you imagined. He still hates your guts, and if looks could kill, they would already be taking your measurements for the coffin, even if Rick sees you with only one eye. The other one was blown out during the Civil War, or better said, you blew out with a hit from your rifle butt when he was about to rape a girl in a family home you had taken as a shelter. They discharged you from the army after that event, but you hated being in the military anyway, The bounty hunter job is much more to your liking, with better pay and more freedom. Really? Because I would have given Mr. O'Brien a medal, but never mind. It seems Folkson ended up the same. It didn't surprise you. He always caused trouble and didn't have an inch of the notions of duty and camaraderie which are typical in soldiers. Not that you did either. Folkson's enraged gestures gets diluted into restrained masks. O'Brien. He tips his hat as a greeting. No, do not expect me to do crazy American accents. I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to offend that many people. But his civilized manners do not fool you about what he is thinking. I see you already know each other. Sans sounds polite, but the tension in the air does not elude him. I'm certain that as good professionals you will know how to work together. Am I right? No problem. Good. As I was saying, the payment consists of $1,000 to share between the two of you, not including what you might collect elsewhere from the outlaws you hunt in the mine. $500 is an excellent payment for exploring a cave, if the dead outlaws go aside. Seems fair to me. You notice Folkson's brief smile. Yes, he will cooperate with you until you're done, because it's better for his skin, but you have a feeling that one of you is not going to come back alive. Well, of course not. It's extremely in his interest. Bump me off, say that one of the bandits did it, get $1,000, and get revenge. He was always easy to anger, and he would have killed you the same day you hit him if he had not lost consciousness. But now you'd rather think in one of those $1,000. But now you'd rather think in those $1,000, which could be for you alone. I accept. Reminds me a little bit of Red Dead Redemption. The first one, not the second one. The sunrise in Arizona's desert isn't like the one you see from a comfortable house in New York or in Europe. The reddish sun heats the sand that holds between its grains the traces of dried blood, bullet casing, and the few corpses of poor wretches yet to be found. This is truer the further you get away from Tombstone and closer to the Dragon Mountains. You hold the hellish orb of fire in the sky to its promises, not of hope, but of more violence. Folkson and you left early. He looks forward on his horse like he's ignoring you, but you can almost taste the hatred he exudes. Or maybe it's your fear of receiving a bullet in your back, but you believe it might be justified. You stop to eat some beans a bit before arriving at the mountains. After a little while of uncomfortable silence, you decide to say something to entertain yourself. Even two people who hate each other, or the executioner and a convicted prisoner, can sometimes come to a lively conversation. What have you been up to lately? They discharged me a few years after you got the boot, and I went around spending the money I had left until I started hunting outlaws. I see. I already came to know that you'd already done this too. A good job for people like us. Yes, truth be told, we have that in common, indeed. I don't see myself on a ranch with a family to feed. I'd rather go wherever I want and keep my money for myself. You too, I suppose. You can bet your ass I do. I don't want a family, not even if they were my own harem of wives. Please tell me that at the end of this I get the opportunity to push him off a cliff, because I'd really like to push this man off a cliff. Oh dear. Remembering the past and from what he says, you're glad that Folkson doesn't have any women or girls in his charge. The subject of family is curious to you. You don't understand why so many people willingly choose to make babies, taking on the commitment of taking care of them. Once they feel affection towards someone who already exists, it's normal that they miss them, as you saw happening to some soldiers during the war. But why having children in the first place? You know some men come to abandon their families, running away from the responsibilities they decided to seek out themselves. You think about people that are actively looking for it, not accidental pregnancies. They must find some positive or beneficial aspect to the idea of having offsprings, which nobody has yet explained to you, and you can't think of either. Or maybe they're just a bit too stupid. It's true that company is important, and it's good to talk a bit, even if with a scoundrel like Folkson. Sometimes you've had to ride alone for days through the desert, and you know that the solitude can be bad for one's head. But you aren't going to pay for this bastard's food from your salary after chatting, as you would have to do so with a son. On the contrary, you plan on keeping his part of the payment. Folkson tells you a couple of exaggerated anecdotes about shootings, and you nod to pass the time, until you finish your lunch and resume your journey. And the Dragon Mountains rise up before you. You ride up to the specific gorge pointed out on the simple map you have and start ascending, surrounded by steep rocks. You finally get to the fork that Sans describes to you, leaving the horses and to search for the dry gully that should already had a ladder installed. Even so, you take a few minutes, until it's Folkson who finds it. You both go up and arrive at the installation of the mining operation. Huts, the tracks of wagons to transport the ore, everything is unkempt and rust starts to spread through the metal. The only sound is in the wind, and you can't see a soul. There are several places to investigate: the storehouse, the barracks, or the foreman's hut. Let's have a look at the storehouses first, see if there's any booty to be looted. There's nothing in the storehouse, just dust and some stored copper. You don't find any trace of life or death. Let's look in the barracks and see if there are any traces of life. They are empty. The bed's made in a casual manner. It seems as if the miners who slept here woke up one day to go to work and simply didn't come back. This is like a ghost town. Let's explore the foreman's hut. You find the foreman's office. The layer of dust indicates that no one has come here in more than a month. There are files and documents which are usual for a mining operation. There is also what seems to be a work journal. You don't have the intention of reading a book now, but you do pick it up in case they want it in Herschel. But there's no one here. It seems as if there hasn't been for many days. I believe that if some outlaws have taken the mine, they'd be bringing out the silver or whatever it is somehow, or at least they'd try to get out from time to time for some air. Folkson nods. My father was a miner. Sometimes he told us how a partner of his fell through a hole and was never seen again, or how a rockfall killed several of them. One time, a flood after dynamiting a wall killed every worker in the mine. The old man knew some of the dead. I think this must have been something like that. And the man they found with the pickaxe? Could be a surviving miner. If he saw the rest dying and was left alone in the tunnels for a good while, he could have easily lost his mind. Yes, I agree. An outlaw shoots you at sight, and in the back if it can do. He doesn't run towards you with a pick in his hand, particularly if you're with a well-armed group. The foreman, I bet he grabbed whatever gold or silver he could and ran. Anyway, let's explore the mine and see if we can find a couple of the crushed miners or a flood, and get back to inform. The easiest $500 we'll ever have earned. There may not be outlaws, but let's be careful with the holes. We're surprised that Folkson shows some concern for your safety. Maybe he'd just rather kill you himself. Although if there aren't any outlaws, it's going to be harder to justify death by gunfire for any of you. Well, you'll stay alert, and with luck you'll leave Tombstone alive, and with $1,000, minus what you might spend right there drinking. And in any case, $500 as a minimum isn't bad either. You light the lanterns that you have brought and head inside the cave. You follow the rail through a narrow tunnel, have to walk sideways to go past a wagon there is in the middle. Further ahead, next to a cargo lift for the ore, a ladder sinks into the darkness of a deep pit. By your partner's grim expression, you can tell he likes the idea of going down there just as little as you do. The mine is a strange place, more isolated than the desert, much darker and narrower. You start descending without knowing how far and deep the end really is, not even seeing further than a few feet downwards, with the lightning hanging from your neck. Folkson follows you. You slowly go down for minutes. It feels like an eternity, as if you were going to stay surrounded by this blackness forever, from one step to the next, never to touch the ground again. You finally set foot on solid ground, and before you even see it, you feel relieved. A few seconds after, Folkson stands beside you, scrutinizing the darkness with his lantern raised. He seems uncomfortable, and so are you. You notice the cargo lift shaft is totally invaded by rocks, so the contraption is useless. You imagine it's because of one of the rock falls that you were expecting to find. You turn over the only path available, which goes deeper towards the heart of the silent world under the mountains. There is something about these black depths that catches your attention and excites you to explore them, but that also scares you, like the vertigo that pushes you to jump into the abyss. The tunnel is wide enough for you to move forward with Folkson at your side. The increased light of both lanterns together comforts you. Not far from the ladder you find a corpse. The body is pierced by bullet holes, and there's a pickaxe next to it. Our miner? I'll bet. The two of you get closer. He had to be sick, looking at that gross blood. A viscous pinkish fluid has emerged from the wounds. It isn't normal blood. It's too thick and barely spills. It's massed in the shape of small lumps and has the consistency of yogurt. Check the eyes too. In reality, there's nothing to check. The sockets are empty. I think that's not unusual they rot away so fast. You're surprised when Faulkson screams, but then you get startled too. Something moves inside the eye sockets. Worms. They eat fast. You don't say with a lot of conviction, but it does ease you, and Faulkson nods. Must be down here the maggots arrived earlier. You've seen many corpses, but you've never encountered something that looks quite like this. Let's move, before we get sick. You keep delving into the dark, now past the point from which Herschel's explorers turned around. The shadows that the lanterns cast seem to sometimes move on their own. Faulkson gives a disgusted grunt. I stepped on one of the worms. It was as fat as a finger. He scrapes the sole of his boot on a sharp rock. The Cave of the Wyrm. The lawyer said the Apaches call it that. Faulkson seems more worried about the worms and infected corpses than about killing you. At least for now. And you share the feeling. This place disgusts and unsettles you. Still, you go deeper and decide to finish the job as quickly as possible. Do you hear that? You hear a metallic blow, and then another. It's as if there was someone there, using a pickaxe. Maybe a gold prospector who came on his own. You don't lose sight of Faulkson's hands as he draws his handgun, well it's used to, whilst you do the same. You both make a silent agreement with a glance, lower the lantern's light and slowly walk towards the sound of the sound, through the tunnels that have already started to fork. At about 50 feet, a figure is focused on hitting green ore deposit with a pickaxe. It's copper, but there could be a gold vein inside. It seems like he's kneeling, or that something strange is going on with his legs. You can't discern it properly from your position and with so little light. Faulkson looks at you with an interrogative stare. You think he's not sure what the two of you should do, and you are the more experienced bounty hunter. Your job is to explore the mine, cover what's possible. You can't ignore this possible gold digger. If he's alone, he's not going to be any trouble for the two of you, but if he's not, immediately shoot the figure, or get closer with the raised gun to talk. Let's have a little faith, and try to talk. You get closer, walking slowly. You say nothing, waiting for the gold prospector to be the one who notices your presence. When you can finally see him better, you discover what is strange about his legs. Although you take a short while to comprehend what your eyes are actually telling you, all the lower parts of his body is one soft, bloated appendix, which withers, ripples, and stretches, rhythmically making the torso raise and then drop with mild slowness. It is white as milk, and you believe that you see wet separations like the ringed body of an earthworm. His upper part, however, is human, with certain aspects of unnatural softness. The face seems normal, but his position doesn't allow you to see it properly from here. The uncanny being keeps chipping the rock, unaware of your presence, or simply not paying attention to you. Your partner raises his revolver with a trembling hand. You grab him by the wrist so that he lowers it and signals for him to turn back. You walk after him, and when you are far enough away, you speak in hushed whispers. "Why didn't we kill it?" Faulkson asks. "There could be more. It's better that we don't start shooting unless it's necessary." Faulkson nods, sweating. What a hellhole have we gotten ourselves into? I don't know, but this job is worth a lot more than $500. Let's get out of here. You retrace your steps. All the paths look the same, now that you don't have a sound to follow. But you remember the way better than you thought, in a manner that feels more intuitive than rational. When you get past the corpse, you find the ladder isn't here anymore. You raise your lantern. Several feet above, you can still see steps. Somebody has sawn off the lower part and taken it with them. Faulkson stares at you with his eye wide open. "Who took the ladder?" One of those monsters? You find yourself strangely calm for the situation. Despite how shaken you were when faced with the hybrid, it's as if you had already drunk a couple of whiskies. There has been some rope around the mine. If we can get a hold of one, we could use it to reach the ladder, with a small pick or something. There has to be some rope around the mine. If we can get a hold of one, we could use it to reach the ladder, with a small pick or anything else tied at the end, and throw it, and then hook it over. Okay, sounds like a decent plan. I'm glad I'm with you, and not alone, O'Brien. You have nerves of steel. Thank you, I suppose. You feel like as if you're in a light trance, and you go back into the tunnels in search of the workplace where you could find tools and utensils. O'Brien, I don't hold a grudge against you about my eye. You're surprised when he brings up this issue. That got out of hand. She was only a kid, and I understand why you did it. Yeah, because raping fully grown adults is absolutely fine. But raping children, no, that's wrong. Lucky I only took your eye. If it had been me in the situation, I might have blown his cock off. Really? You don't seem like it how you looked at me back in Tombstone. It annoys me that you blew up my eyeball, sure. And I don't think it's fantastic, but I understand why you hit me. Also, my conscience already gets pricked when I remember that I tried. It'd be worse if I'd managed to do it. You don't know if he's being sincere, or he merely wants you to get overconfident, or if he's simply saying things to try and calm himself down. He's scared, and for a reason. It's that you are not that is strange. The memory of the hybrid no longer seems to upset you, now that you think it could be an animal, an innocent creature. Whatever his origins is, he didn't seem very smart. You're slightly pleased that you didn't kill him. It's as if someone inside your head were patting you on the back in a friendly manner because of it. The blows of the pickaxe against the rocks can no longer be heard. You get into the tunnel where you found the hybrid. It's empty now. A faint, wet spot is the only thing to mark where the creature stood. You can't find the pickaxe or any kind of equipment whatsoever, nor can you see any traces of gold or silver. We're going to get lost if we search blindly. Rails come out of every tunnel you've found, and all of them seem equally rusted and covered in dust. When you remember the foreman's journal, maybe you can find some annotation about where to find the most recent workplace. You open it from the last written pages, examining it under the lantern's lights, and you are surprised to find some kind of dream diary. The foreman describes how an entity called the Wyrm communicated with him while he slept, night after night. The Wyrm, older than time itself, breathes under our feet, trapped, his power drained, almost asleep, but not entirely inactive. He has identified me as the leader of this community, the miners, and negotiates an agreement with me. He wants me to deliver the others to him, so he'll return them into his servants, his senses beyond his grave. A new people of the Wyrm, like hasn't existed in centuries. In exchange, he offers me power and knowledge beyond the dreams of any mortal. The possibility of leaving my fragile humanity behind and talking with gods more ancient than the earth. I cannot refuse his requests. This reminds me very much of the story of Dunwich Boars from Fallout 4. What does it say that's left you with that stupid face? Nothing. Wait. You find the text fascinating, but you don't want to make Folsom more anxious than he already is, and you need him to stay calm. You turn a few pages back until you find the actual work diary. You read about the last spots in which they were mining ore, and you get an approximate idea of how to get there. I think we've got to keep going through this same tunnel. What if we see that thing? He didn't react to us before. Your words don't calm him down, but he does follow you. You notice he walks a little behind you now, but you somehow do not fear that he's trying to kill you. He's scared and wants your company and your help. Hating you or not, of that you're certain. The calm that overcame you since you got back to the ladder gets more intense. And that you suddenly start noticing it's not only inexplicable, but alien to you. A whisper in your mind. A lullaby. Something's reaching out without touching you. Unseen and unheard. You just feel it. A will who makes an effort to soothe you, to seem friendly. This way. You're not following the diary anymore, but an instinct that you shouldn't have. You don't know where you're headed, only that you must go there. You enter a wide cavern, and smooth slopes descend into its center. You get down with your lantern's rays, and then dim the light partially, showing several soft, elastic shapes, and then emerge from the creaks and openings on the walls surrounding you. They are partly humanoid, but lack 1 or 2 arms, or legs, or any other combination of limbs. They drag themselves slowly with a gelatinous sound, the lower segments of their bodies stretching and contracting to squirm, the vestiges of their feet no longer anything but lifeless burdens. Folkson aims with his gun. We can't beat them all, and we don't want them to harm us. Someone there, Maker, is contacting me. I don't know how, in my mind. I think I may hear him too, or feel him. He doesn't seem to like me. Lower your weapon. Maybe because of that. Holton does so, and his muscles relax. He's still shivering, covered in sweat. One of the beings gets closer to you until the light shows his facial features clearly. I've woken up looking like that some mornings. They're human, but deformed, drooping, as if they were melting down. His eye sockets are black, empty pits. The monster speaks with you with a wet and thick voice. You feel he is specifically addressing you. We are the people of the Wyrm. We serve the Wyrm. Our god wants to speak with you, but it's too soon for you to be able to receive his visions. You are new, and your mind is still closed. The Wyrm only caresses the surface. He will speak through his prophet. Follow me. You turn your head to Folkson. He's terrified, and you are starting to be too. The presence of your mind no longer soothes you, but quite the opposite, now that you know more about its source. You both look around. The worms haven't stopped arriving, dozens of twisted, pale faces watching you from the shadows. You share a glance. No words are needed. If you wanted to get out of this, you're going to have to go along with them, at least for now. You walk behind the creature through one of the tunnels. You discover these beings can crawl much faster than what you have seen so far. You'll follow your guide swiftly through narrow passageways and wonder if you'll ever see light again, or if this darkness will become your grave, or something worse, a new home. You finally get to the edge of a cliff, in a cavern that reaches beyond what you can see. You cannot get your light up the bottom of the abyss with your lanterns, but a wet reflection indicates that something is moving down there. Something colossal that slithers and coils like a snake. From there, something smaller, about the size of a human being, raises. It quickly gets closer to you without anything to hold it, flying, until it reaches the edge from which Folkson and you are already getting away from by instinct. The body gracefully lands on the floor at your height. You were expecting some kind of swollen monstrosity, but it looks like a regular human being, naked. His facial expressions seem like that of somebody under the effects of opium, with a lifeless gaze and a dislocated and drooling mouth. When he speaks, nevertheless, his tone of voice expresses consciousness, certainty, and wisdom. I thought this appearance would make you more comfortable, now that I can adapt many different ways. I am the leader of this community, prophet of the Wyrm, companion of the entities beyond the veil. My human name no longer holds any significance or meaning. Your non-violent behavior towards our brother, the first you found, has interested us. You even stopped your partner's hand. My master and I wish to make a proposal privately. He silently turns towards Folkson. He goes back into the tunnel, walking fast so the guide Wyrm, who goes with him, doesn't get to touch him. First of all, allow me to ask you a few questions. My lord, the Wyrm, drags his powerful mind around yours. He will know if you lie or not. Be truthful, show good faith, and we may all yet benefit. Who are you? So, this is a memory test of who I am. I'm Howard O'Brien, and I'm a bounty killer. The leader nods. Why have you come here? To meet the Wyrm, to kill Folkson, for money, to live an adventure. I suppose the reality of the situation is we did come here on a job. I see. A trivial motivation, only valuable for those who have not reached enlightenment. Do you wish to share a sense of brotherhood with others? To be part of a family? Well, I see why they were talking about my interest in family. No, if I'm honest, I would be more than happy to just leave and get my money and just go and get boozed up till the point where I can't remember this anymore. Maybe you haven't found the right community. You might change your mind. Why didn't you kill our brother? To not alert others? Because of mercy? Because I want to join you? Or I don't know. Well, the reason that I chose was because I wanted to investigate it, and it's rather difficult to ask a dead man any questions, but let's say because of mercy. You tried to fool me. I'll put the blame on the stress, but just this time. Okay, whatever. Do you have something against your companion? I don't trust him, I want his part of the reward, or I don't trust him, and I want part of his reward. I suppose it's all true. You may stop worrying about all of that very soon. With your honesty, you prove once more your value for our community. That's why we want you to join us, but not as one of the lower subjects you have met. You will be a wise man, like me. You will be able to delve into knowledge from dimensions beyond ours, to drink from the power of the eldest beings of the universe. If you could see it already, as I saw it in my dreams, you wouldn't even hesitate. What I am offering for you is to transcend your mortal existence and become a god. I could use a partner and a pupil to guide, and what I ask of you is nothing. You just have to deliver your partner to us, like I delivered all of the mine. You know his presence doesn't please you. I don't like him either. We do not want him as a member. Kill him yourself, for small sacrifice, and mostly as a symbol of your exorcism from the world of the surface. Destroy the only simple human that's left down here, and journey by my hand to a better place. I am certain you don't need my help. Go and put an end to the pest. The leader goes silent, motionless, his eyes aglaze, and it looks like his mind is no longer here with you. You want to get out of here. You don't have any intention of becoming some demigod. Really? Because I kind of do. You just want to see the sun again and to drink a bottle. Or a good bunch of them and forget about this nightmare. At least, a part of you thinks like that. But you still feel the call of the Wyrm inside you. His faint whispers speak to you in a language you don't understand, but which you somehow know promises of marvelous sensations, powers you have never imagined. And to reach it, you have only to kill Folkson. He's human garbage, and you already had the intention of finishing him off. Besides, what other choice do you have? Probably to die, devoured by the Wyrm or his servants. Maybe the safest bet is to kill him and earn the trust of the people of the Wyrm that way. On the other hand, if you want to escape, you are going to need to fight at some point, and you really could use the help of another bounty killer. You believe Folkson may be of the same opinion. When you go back to the tunnel, you find Folkson calling you from a dark nook. O'Brien, check out what I found. You follow him, and he shows you to a small cavern full of mining equipment. He points to a rope that is rolled up on his shoulder. The Wyrm left me here alone a little while ago. It seems that they were working around here. What's going on with your new best friend? He wants me to kill you. Kill him? Or don't kill him? Well, let's roll with the not killing him option. His eyes open wide and moves his hand towards his gun without drawing. Don't worry, I don't intend to. But I don't know how we're going to face him. You've seen him, he's some kind of wizard, medicine man, something like that. Powerful. I have a suggestion that may interest you. He puts his hand into a box on the floor and takes a stick of dynamite out of it. We blow up the entrance and let him remain trapped inside his cave. But I don't know how we're going to get back to the ladder with all of those worms. That's if we don't get buried here too after the explosion. I think there's another exit. Wyrm has granted me some sort of instinct about these caves. That's why I knew how to get here. Now I sense an end to the tunnels. A way out. It's close, much closer than the ladder, in the opposite direction. Through that cavern there. I'm sure we'll find some of the people of the Wyrm too, but I believe we'll leave most of them behind and have a better chance of shooting our way out. Sounds like a plan to me. Quickly, before they notice we're up to something, we should have killed you already by now. You light 2 sticks of dynamite and leave them at the sides of the passage of the Wyrm's cave, and run away with a lantern in one hand and a handgun in the other. After a few seconds, the explosion makes the floor tremble, the walls creak, and you hear the loud sound of large rocks falling. It feels as if the whole mine were dying and you were going to engulf yourself in its deathly rattle. But the chaos ceases and you are alive, the way is still open before you. Then a daunting vision overwhelms you, a knowledge that sucks you in and paralyzes you. An image of the cosmos, ruled by entities for whom Earth is like a grain of sand on an immense beach, and you as a human being mean less to them than an insect to you. If you were to gaze directly at one of these gods of immeasurable power, if you tried to truly understand them, even through the fragments of knowledge that now dance through your brain, you would never be able to recover. And the Wyrm is one of them. But not one of the mightiest. Inside his tomb and prison, deeply weakened, he needs to connect with humans, use them, and still, even so. Ugh. If he were free and had all of his powers, he could annihilate the human race, and no doubt destroy you with a single thought which would transform your body into aberrant, incredibly painful ways, until your mind stopped existing like it once did, and you lived only for torment. He could do this without a specific reason, as an experiment, or possibly just as a pastime. He could do it to any person, and he wouldn't care about their suffering, as the feelings of a human being are nothing to the Wyrm. And now, he hates you. You feel the gargantuan might of his hatred and an everlasting promise, forever and ever. Even if you manage to escape, the day the Wyrm recovers his strength, he will go after you. You can only pray that this doesn't happen in what's left of your life. You barely notice that Folkson has been shaking by you the shoulder for some time. What's going on with you? Come on. When you see Folkson after your vision, you understand that until now you had feared him, but not anymore. On the contrary, his voice and image comfort you. What's the uncertain grudge of an insignificant human compared to the wrath of the Wyrm? Still trembling and covered in cold sweat, you run and take the lead to guide your partner. Grotesque howling comes from the darkness behind you. The people of the Wyrm. One of the beings emerges from the shadows before you, dragging its useless limbs at the sides of a bloated body. Another one falls from a crack in the ceiling, making a wet and viscous sound as it hits the floor. They squirm fast, their slimy faces contorted into inhuman grimaces. Folkson shoots and hits one of them, but that barely stops him for a few seconds. While your partner loses precious time hammering his revolver, you drop the lantern and put your free hand over your weapon. With the trigger pulled, you slap the firing pin over and over, shooting a fast string of bullets until the barrel is empty. The Wyrm writhes on the floor, dying, and you run over them. You retch as your full foot sinks into soft, sticky bodies. Folkson handles the next monster that gets in your way, imitating your technique from before. The screams behind are getting closer. You can't stop to reload, so you keep running. Your natural knowledge of the mines is fading by the second, but you believe the last fork you took was the last. Yes, before you, over a slope, you can see the first rays of light from outside. They're dim, but they're there. You drop your lantern and even your gun. You both run like you haven't in your whole life. In the end, exhausted, you get out crouching, almost rolling, through the low hole that communicates with the world on the surface. The full moon, so bright compared to the caves, you take a few seconds to notice it's nighttime. The inhuman moans can still be heard coming from the depths. You wonder if the people of the Wyrm will be able to come out of the tunnels, but Falkson is already pulling out 3 more sticks of dynamite from his belt, lighting them all at once and throwing them inside in a frenzy. Fire in the hole. You stay confounded for a couple of seconds before running to the side of the entrance and throwing yourself on the ground, just as the first blast wave sends a rain of stones in your direction. After the 3 chained explosions, you get up to examine the mouth of the cave of the Wyrm. You see a good pile of rocks, and you are satisfied enough with that. You leave as fast as you can, worn out, but still moved by adrenaline. You don't dare to circle the mountains to find your horses. You walk through the desert until you both fall exhausted, as far as possible from the Dragon Mountains. The sun of Arizona wakes you up the next morning. You walk towards Tombstone until you find a caravan. Its crew takes pity on your beaten looks and takes you back. You convince Sands, the lawyer of the Herschel Mining Company, that a series of rock falls inside the mine killed almost every single worker that left the place in livable. Falkson and you drink that night away your pay. During the drunkenness, you tell him about your past fears. He assures you that he didn't plan to kill you, and that he told you underground was sincere. The next day, you say goodbye to each other. You don't want to see his face again. Neither remember what you have gone through together. He feels the same, and makes sure you know. Many nights from then on, you wake up screaming, terrified, remembering what happened and the oath of revenge from the Wyrm. During months, you don't even step foot on the state of Arizona. Despite everything, you manage to keep on living in a more or less normal manner, trusting the monster won't fully recover his power during your lifetime, which will barely be an instant in his long-lasting imprisonment, much older than humanity. You watch your back, fearing sometimes to find some gruesome member of the people of the Wyrm. By the life of a bounty hunter is always dangerous. Years go by, and your paths cross again, after all that time with Falkson's. Apparently he didn't stay out of trouble, even with the freedom of working as a bounty hunter, and ended up as a criminal. You meet in El Paso with a party of collaborators interested in juicy rewards offered by a certain outlaw gang of which Falkson is a part. You distribute the bounty beforehand and leave towards the hideout, a little ghost town discovered by a tip. The assault is a success, but the outlaws didn't expect you, and you were all better gunfighters. Since you don't see Falkus anywhere, alive or dead, you go alone to look for him around the village. You find him hiding behind the doorstep of the last building before the desert. Get out of there, Rick. He shows himself under the sunlight. It's odd how his face changes with the light. You remembered it mostly, covered in shadows. You're aiming at him with his revolver and he's holding his gun too, but he knows that if he raises it, he's dead, and drops his weapon. Well, it seems I'll be chipping rocks for a while. You stare at him for a few seconds, quietly. It seems he doesn't know. They want to hang you all. They've asked us to save them the trouble. His tanned face goes pale. You spit a jet of chewing tobacco. It's $1,000 for your corpse. You lower the gun. It's a shame I haven't found you, this time. Folkson takes an instant, but understands, and then starts running away. When seeing that, you painfully remember the escape from the mine. It still gives you nightmares. You hear how he manages to get a horse somewhere and rides away. You join the bounty hunters who are upset that one of the outlaws has managed to escape. He got away from me. You can deduct that from my part. They thank you for your gesture, and they all go back together, carrying the corpses between... They thank you for your gesture, and you all go back together, carrying the corpses between jokes and laughter, satisfied with a well-done job, and which you are able to collect with no new holes in your body. It's not a group you've stayed with... It's not a group you'd stay your whole life with, but for now, at this moment, you laugh heartily and feel good. You have survived. I am rather curious about what it would happen if we did this. By the time he puts his hand on his revolver, you have already shot. You cock the gun and shoot again. Fulton falls down with his hands over holes in his chest. The presence inside your mind gets more pleasant. An entity far superior to you expresses his acceptance, and lets you know that he is receiving you with open arms. That feeling comforts you like nothing has ever done before. You feel part of something far greater than your previous mortal existence. Your body hasn't changed yet, like ones from the other members of the community, but with this active separation from humanity, you already feel something different. The consequences of your choice have been set off already. There's no turning back. Trembling, invaded by new sensations, and glimpses from realities far beyond what you have ever imagined, you get back into the cavern and hug the leader as if he were a beloved one, long time lost. Your body merges with his, and your minds connect as two parts of the same organism. He shows you the cosmos, and the beings that truly rule over it, from whom even the ascended prophets like you two are little more than insects. Nevertheless, you have access to their knowledge now, to a part of their power, especially the Wyrms, who even weakened and trapped in his underground grave bestows divine powers upon you, addressing you almost like an equal. Sometimes merged with the Wyrm, or the leader, sometimes an independent body of ever-changing shape, you come to be a perpetual part of the people of the Wyrm, a second ruler. Your mind, in many aspects, is forever changed. But in others, there are moments in which you miss your old life and question if you really have made the best choice for yourself. You will never be able to go back to the surface anymore, to feel free again. You are too different. Your contract with the Wyrm is permanent. You are, in many aspects, a slave. On some occasions you find yourself envying even the most brain-dead members of the people of the Wyrm, those who only repeat meaningless actions, like the first miner you found chipping ore with his pickaxe. At least they are blissfully unaware of their situation. The Wyrm and the leader discover your doubts, since you can't hide anything from them for long. They punish you by taking away your power and restricting you. They transform you into another of the Wyrms, unable to change shape anymore. You can only briefly hide your thoughts from their scrutiny, but you don't need more to carry out your final escape from this darkness, the only way that is still possible. You find your old handgun at the same place where you killed Folkeson, and taking it with a fragile limb, you blow your own head off. You have not survived. Wow. Wow. Yes, that was quite similar to the story of Dunwich Boars, but then again they are both based off Lovecraftian horrors, so that does make sense. But this was really good. I actually enjoyed this more than the Red Death. I'm not sure if this came before or after it, but the writing seemed better. The motivations of the characters and the personality of the characters came through a lot more. Their thoughts, their doubts, their worries, fears. It seemed to translate a lot better this time around than it did previously. They seemed a lot more human. They seemed a lot more real than the characters in the Red Death. But this was genuinely really, really good. I very, very much enjoyed this novel. This was really excellent. And if you're not particularly familiar with many of Lovecraft's work and you're into this kind of thing, I would highly suggest that you find some of his books. They're not expensive and they are a very interesting read. So thank you very much for joining me this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Look after each other and good night.